Sol Sestancia 2, where's Sol Sestancia 2? Can we get a teaser on it? Yes, sure, I'm working on it. Taking a little longer than last time, I'm sorry. You want a teaser? Sure, here's one. Well, jeepers, it's good eating for Sonic fans lately, huh? We got a new Sage, Sonic Frontiers DLC, Sonic Superstars around the corner, oh, and a new Sonic Roll Blast 2 OLDC released. Probably lower on everybody's radar. Very low. But hey, I'm talking about it because it involves me, and I'm a huge narcissistic ass. Sonic Roll Blast 2, the old fan game starting in 1998 and still growing now. It's my favorite. Got my Goldilocks porridge of not too platformy and not too speedy, just right, and I love the Doom aesthetic. And twice a year, they have an OLDC, a collection of levels sent in by competitors in what used to be a competition. I've joined them since 2020 and never won a single time. Woohoo! And now I never will because it's been revealed that these level competitions are no longer competitions, but collabs instead. Collaborations, where all contestants can basically jump into each other's levels and start meddling with it. Great idea. To help prevent situations you had previous time where some levels are extremely high quality and others are a little bit more primitive. Now the better skilled mappers can hop into what would have been the losing maps and punch them up to higher qualities. And I suppose technically bad mappers could jump into high quality levels and ruin them to balance them out even better. I fear there were a little too many levels this time though, and the majority of the developers didn't seem interested in collabing, so in the end, out of the 29 total maps, I think about only 8 or 9 had big noticeable changes through collaboration, and perhaps another 5 had some minor assistance. But yeah, I spent a lot of time helping other people's maps, only in terms of visuals though. I made it a rule for myself that I wouldn't mess with anyone's level design or gameplay unless it was for minor quality of life bits. Spent a little too much time, in fact, my other videos and animations suffered from it. So I figured might as well make a video out of it then. So here we are. The OLDC is out, 25 single player levels, 4 multiplayer levels which I'm gonna ignore because I don't play multiplayer, sorry folks. So I'll talk a little bit about each level, or talk a huge bit about it whenever I'm involved, because I'm a huge narcissistic ass, don't you know? And give it my judgment. Kinda. I mean, I know it's not a competition anymore, but I can still judge. And then I want to talk a bit about the behind the scenes events, that sort of thing. So, download the latest 2.13 version of Sonic Roll Blast 2, the new OLDC level pack, grab a few stupid custom characters to screw around with, and join me as I'm going to regret talking about 25 levels. Whew, it's a little much. But first, let's explore this wonderful little hub area. Well, little, it's huge. Kinda interesting to see the evolution of the hub areas of these level packs. First they were really abstract, a lot of incomprehensible colors and shape. Then it became a weird fantasy town, a more grounded RPG town, and now we get this detailed, really nice looking Indiana Jones beach resort thing. I don't think it's explained anywhere, but the levels spread across the hub are ordered by difficulty level. So if you play all the levels as you encounter them, all the levels are super simple. It's because all the hardest balls levels are way deeper into the hub. Bit awkward design, since the deeper segments of the hub are way bigger, yet there's less levels to put there. Oh well. Still really awesome looking and fun hub to explore. If the graphics look familiar to you, apparently there's Echo the Dolphin and Rain World textures being used. And how's that? Eggman's Batniks do the catering. Eggman soda. What could go wrong? Either way, the 25 levels, judgment time. We'll also highlight whether a collab took place, although a lot of the collaborative work happened in private, so I'm not sure about all the details. Not sure if this video is going to be interesting or boring as heck, but whatever. Here we go. Starting off with NS2 Gamers? The Factory! This is one of these levels I have an inexplicable likeness for. And I think it's mostly because of the rhythm. You always know where to go, what to do, and it's just a straightforward series of challenges. It's very unwilling to stick to a single idea or direction sometimes, so level gimmicks kinda come and go. And despite the super basic visuals, there's some variety to keep it very interesting, like the lava room. So if anything, it really makes it feel like a factory, where each room has its own purpose. Also, it's the same problem I often have with wide open spaces. You want some nice open space, but what to do with them? Sure, you can fill them up with enemies and items, but let's face it, no player really wants to defeat all of that. Everyone just bolts straight for the exit. Vertical climbing is your best option, and hey, they do it wonderfully here. Also love the shifting goalpost troll. Classic. In hindsight, I'm kind of curious what would have happened if I collabed with this level and made it look more like a typical Roger with my textures and all that. See how it fits, because the way how the level flows really reminds me of my own level sometimes. But the author wanted to keep this level very personal, so hey, fair enough. Don't let me hijack it. I'm a jerk. Level's a bit confusing sometimes. Zoom tubes often stop the player when the camera is still in front of a wall, or there's these weird black doorways that sometimes don't work. It's a bit messy. Hilltop Fort Zone from Mammoth Mogul Fan 22. Although, geez, how much of the original level is even left here? This level had a serious makeover from resident level design god Pfft. I wish the OLDC included both levels in the hub, the old and the new one, so players could really see the difference, because they're practically two different levels. I kind of liked the original level. It had a basic art design that didn't really make good use of the fortress inside of Hilltop theme, but it had a very decent level design going with very clear challenges and set pieces, something I can always appreciate in these levels, especially from beginners, as often Sonic Roboblast 2 levels feel like just endless rooms and shapes with nothing particularly happening in them. This level had a theme and some specific gameplay ideas that I appreciated for it. But wow, then you get Pfft meddling with the level, really selling that Fortress and Hilltop Zone concept, adding all of these light effects, much more complex architecture, giving the player more space to maneuver in, a set piece where the ground collapses and blows you back up. Kinda confusing what was happening, but hey, appreciated, visually very pleasing, good flow in the gameplay, and a great level. Highly recommend. Tofu Tholwag Zone by Roy Kurps, who I think is also largely responsible for the hub, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this level, what can I say about it? Exactly the type of level that suffers the most from being part of this giant 25 level pack. There isn't much of a hook or a personality to it to make it stand out, and you probably forget about it. It's a pretty decent stage for what it is, though. Very nice open spaces, could be fun to speedrun, very pleasant atmosphere. There's a fun few touches, like the spring windmills, I really like those. It's just kind of missing a hook. It's just kind of there. And unlike Factory, they kept it tight with constantly changing gameplay challenges. Here, there's a lot empty spaces, and most of the gameplay elements don't really do much. But hey, I'm kind of guilty of that myself, so still. Yeah, it's a good level for what it is, but it kind of gets lost in the noise of this old DC. Technically very well made level. Great if you want a more relaxing level to run around in. And yeah, good. I don't think anyone collabed with this level. Man, I'm kind of harsh for these levels, man. That's kind of the problem when you have 25 of them. Kind of have to really get out there guns a-blazing to make an impression. Blossom Priest Zone Act 1. The level made by Spirit Sun and Pfft. So already collaborating before it was official a collab, huh, you cheaters? Well, I kind of did too, so never mind. Okay, so here I probably need to explain a technical element. Ultimate Zone Builder. It's a brand new level design editor that has been very recently released, so this level pack is pretty much one of the first main showcases of the results of that. About half the levels are made with this new level editor. And this level is especially a showcase for it, because there's a lot of tricks here, like changing the scale of items. Constantly in this level you see giant springs that amplify how far they send you to, and bigger enemies and all that sort of thing. There's also way more complex and natural looking slopes and dynamic landscaping going on, where this new software is more specialized in. So tons of complex walkways here, with even water on top. That must be in a pain to set up. Although not as much painful as it was in the old software. So yeah, what can I say about this level? It's clearly a showcase of what the new engine is all capable of. And it's definitely an Pfft level, the king of level making, because especially in the complexity of the pathways. Most levels in Sonic Roboblast 2 are usually very stiff, mine certainly are. As complicated slopes and roller coastery pathways are quite difficult to create in a Doom engine, but this guy is certainly a master of creating all these complex architecture and lightning and stuff. Still, I gotta admit, hot take, With pure Ophius levels, I always feel there's something missing, kind of. It's often a giant maze of sloped pathways, and when I'm not quite sure where to go sometimes, it can be very tricky. Especially when the color palette is very samey, like everything kind of washes together. I really wished he used a deeper color palette and used it to better guide a player around, like using different colored sand paths or something. Because now everything tends to kind of meld into each other and often get lost. Although the pink trees really help a little bit. Although they're kind of random and don't really guide the player. Ophius levels are the best when they have a more complex color dynamic going on, like in the Furnace Foliage levels he made a couple competitions ago. There's also a lack of clear gameplay elements. His levels tend to be better when they have one, like with the moving barrels, so it's not just running around slopey paths. Hence why I like Ophius levels the most when he's collaborating with someone else, such as in the aforementioned Hilltop Fortress. Except that this level is also collapsed, so I guess I don't know. Depends who's working with, I guess. Still, it's very hard to dislike his level. It's very great. A lot of technical feats going on and incredible set pieces, especially with the scaling. The giant fortress at the end has a neat effect. Pretty awesome. But, yeah, I'm missing something. Oops, just realized most of the footage I shot was when I had a glitch where most of the new features didn't work. Anyway, yeah, pretty awesome level, but a little too labyrinthian, maze-like for me. I get lost a lot. Hui, denke! First of all, I love the title. It's German for cave, I think. This is the second level from this author, The Shadow, with this theme, having done a stage called Festung oder so, which means fortress or something. I love it because usually European languages are used to make something more fancy. Soldatenpanzerkrieg! Ooh, German, so macho and adventurous. But now they add that messy American-style uncertainty to it, as if Beavis and Butt had made up the title. It's a castle or something, I think. I love that mix, it's great. Anyway, big open level with the challenge to press all buttons before a time limit is over. I love the concept. It's a great level to play with weird custom characters because it's non-linear and wide open, so you can approach it from different tactics. And unlike most wide open levels, it never loses focus. You're searching for specific buttons, even having a beam of light coming out of them so they're easy to spot, so players shouldn't really be lost too much. You can usually spot quickly where the other buttons are. The only problem is finding the exit afterwards. After pressing the buttons, you need to find the exit that opened up, and that one isn't as clearly shown in the stage. But yeah, good hook, good rhythm, good level. Gotta say, I prefer the previous level he made, though. There you were in a flying fortress, and as the timer counted down, you actually saw the fortress crumble apart and fall into the ocean. Really made it intense. This level doesn't really give the timer a physical representation in the stage, as far as I can tell. Oh well. Radiant Reverie! Oh, I love this level. Strong hook. You're in a dream world, and there's alarm clocks everywhere attacking you. Buzz off! I need my beauty sleep, darn you! Shame I can't find a Knight's custom character to play here. Anyway, most impressive about this level are the gimmicks. I always thought Sonic Robo Blast 2 needs more gimmicks, little things in a level to interact with, and Princess Plushima here made a bunch of them, including having most badniks and collectible items now stuck in floating balloons, and there's these rainbow paths that kind of work like the gusts of wind in Sonic Adventure, where you suddenly run automatically across a winding path with loops and all. Really impressive and great way to add more Sonic athletics in the otherwise much more stiff Sonic Robo Blast 2 physics. I would love to implant those in my own levels, but I can't imagine how nightmarishly difficult it must be to set those up. Not to mention, don't want to rely too much on automation. Finally, there's these mirror segments where you and your mirror self have to navigate a level structure together to collect items. Another great programming feat. Very impressive. Bit buggy though. It's really easy to disintegrate with your double in a way where that makes the stage impossible to complete. Oh well. But the cherry on the sundae of this level is the ending. You fight an alarm clock boss, and then you wake up in your comfortable bed, and the alarm clock beats you over the head. Awesome, 10 out of 10. If this still wasn't a competition, you're my number one. No collaboration happened in this level. Although I think Plushima did add a few items from other levels inside some bubbles as an Easter egg, including an Eggman statue from my stage, but I never found it. Sky Sanctuary! Oh man, Sky Sanctuary. By Malem. Ah, what a tragedy! This level, man, this level. It's like 95% perfect. I mean, look at it. Huge in skill, neat graphics, got the whole feel and rhythm going of a modern Sonic level. This is exactly what you want a Generations-based Sky Sanctuary level to look like in a Sonic Robo Blast 2. This level. If there was a school for Sonic level design, this is the level I would want the class to dissect. This is what happens when you have a level that's near perfect, yet doesn't quite have a good grasp on rhythm. When you run across these slopes, following the rings, you just run headfirst into a wall. Well, when the level makes a sharp turn, it suddenly expects you to make a 90-degree turn into a solid wall, because if you keep following the natural flow of the turn, you run into a wall again. It flings you up in a wall, or it makes you face a dead end, where it wants you to turn 180 degrees in the other direction, and there's so often a spot where you're just completely lost where you're supposed to go, where suddenly it wants you to turn 180 degrees in the other direction. Oh, this is the kind of level you so desperately want to zone out and just blast off like the wind across all these awesome arcs and turns. You'll be constantly knocked out of your zen state by this weird and natural way turns and flows of the level. It's such a damn shame. This level would have been my favorite of the pack if it wasn't for that handicap. And as epic and huge this level already is, there's a ton of unexpected twists and turns too. Like there's a secret ending where all of a sudden you find yourself on the Death Egg, which has this cool set piece. The space door suddenly opening and sucking you out unless you find shelter. I absolutely love that idea, but unfortunately it doesn't really work well, as the sounds and movements aren't really in sync with each other. The most frustrating part of this level is, this is exactly why this collab exists, right? This is the perfect level for more technical-minded people to hop in and fix, yet nobody of the collab really collaborated with this level either. I did attempt to help out early on during the collab, where I tried to explain what bothered me in the level, but I was kind of tired at the time and I got no backup from everyone else, so the conversation kind of died and in the end nothing really happened. Damn shame. Pretty awesome level, but ooh. I later heard the mappers are sending in an update later, so possible the level's way better now, and I just talked out of my ass. Oops. Sunset Skyscraper Zone by Marble Cheese, one of the levels I collabed with. So this level seems to be inspired by Mega Man levels from practically the SNES and PlayStation 1 era. I always loved how those cities look like there, with the pastel colors and the futuristic yet still cozy look. Damn shame we never spent much time in them, unless you count Mega Man Legends, I suppose. So in this level you hop around the rooftops with giant fans blowing you off course, clouds to hop on, and a giant section where you drive a skateboard thing through tunnels, and it can even fly. As far as I can tell, it was programmed by the map maker herself, so awesome. I love it. We'll probably ask for permission if I can use it for Sol Sestancia 3. This is a really tough level though, easy to die, and the platforms are all really small. So this level is the only one that willingly asked me to meddle with it, so I did. Changed the skybox, added a little purple against all the orange, thought it would add a visual punch to it. Honestly, I want to bring in actual Mega Man textures in here. Was hoping Battle and Chase had its textures ripped somewhere on the internet. Was disappointed nobody ever ripped that game, besides some of the racers. So in the end, I had to draw the new textures myself. Tried my best to stay in the original art style. Not always a success. Anyway, yeah, the original had all its decorative buildings to be all these tiny pillars. I thought it looked off in scale, so I removed most of them and I instead made a brand new proper-looking skyscrapers in the background instead, which might not have been a great idea since people might confuse them for actual level geometry. Which they aren't meant to be, and I constantly see people trying to jump on them. Stay away! They're in the distance for a reason, darn it! I put a few springs on them to knock players back to the gameplay area just in case. But yeah, I usually have a rule of not meddling with the actual level design and only change the visuals, but here I decided to add a few quality of life improvements, especially a lot of more safety rails. Like the flying skateboard has this weird bug where if you go downwards to lower yourself into the next location, there's a chance the player will instantly make a 180 degrees turn as soon as the skateboard turns back into its land mode and immediately fall to the death. So I made sure there's some safety rails here to prevent that from happening, hopefully. So, can you guys find the secret room? I didn't make it, by the way, even though it looks like the kind of room I would make, except it has way better art. But yeah, secret room. I think it's hidden a little too well. Even if you know where it is, it's very challenging to get into it, so good luck. Elky Railway by Jetsphere94. This mapper primarily seems to create custom enemies, and I love the custom enemies. They bring in the exact kind of dynamic that the vanilla enemies never do. They chase you, shoot lasers and exploding missiles. There's these soldiers who jump around after you. It's awesome. Immediately asked permission if I could use them in my own levels. However, one detail about these enemies, you have to use them sparingly. Very sparingly and in the right spots. Spam the level with them and then the level becomes a nightmare. Which brings us right to this level, and yeah, hoo boy. It's not a bad level by any means, but I'm sure this one will frustrate people the most. You're constantly barraged by endless enemy fire. It's the only emerald hunting stage. Level's really short and basic, though visually very well made. But yeah, that level itself isn't much fun, but I love these enemies. They need better utilization though. Biribatu Sand Zone by Polaris. The Mario stage, I think, there's Goombas and question blocks, although ironically playing this level with the custom Mario character seems to be a bad idea to me. This level works way better if your character can properly launch themselves from ramps, and that's kind of tricky with Mario. Yeah, a level I can't really say much about. You're put into a challenging 3D area where you need to climb a pyramid, enter it, and leading into a short 2D section until you're sent to the next 3D area. Setup kind of reminds me of Sonic Lost World in that way. It's pretty challenging to me. I mostly know where to go. Level flows really well when you play a character as Sonic. Second 3D section is a bit confusing at first though. Visually, I appreciate the runes being gray and therefore creating a nice color dynamic with the yellow-red desert graphics. A lot of the levels this OLDC have this one washed out general color scheme, and that's really kind of dull for me. This level is popping a little bit more, so points for that. Pointless points, but points nonetheless. Tectonic Bluffs Zone! What a name. By Trusty Gun. A neato-technical level with a new gimmick. Flowers that shoot you up and make you float down. Awesome. I always thought Roboblast needed a lot more interactive items like that. Reminds me a bit of those flowers from Sonic and the Fallen Stars. I do have a few issues with the flowers though. Maybe it's me, but often the platforms meant for me to land on look like I could have easily reached them without a flower's help. That's kind of making me cause to second guess myself where the level wants me to go and then getting myself lost. Although this might just be a perspective trick playing on me or something. It's not really helping that very often the flower is situated in an area that's very cluttered and in a corner. Because in the 3D space, I need time to readjust the camera and orientate myself. So I might want to give a lot more empty space around the flowers before throwing the challenges at ya. It ain't like 2D where you immediately see what you're up against after all. But maybe this is me. Color use. Smart use using bright lava in a green environment. Makes it poppin', which is good, because it's dangerous. You want to know where the lava is. Unfortunately, outside of that, the level looks kind of dull to me. It's just those earthly tones and very abstract shapes that always kind of annoy me. Kind of makes me wish the lava was much more prominent integrated to the landscape, with lava falls or something. Oh well. But hey, the trees look pretty awesome, and the 3D looking flower, so that's great. I like the set piece at the end with lava rising after you. That's always a classic. Rise is really slow though. I barely even noticed that such a thing was happening. It's only because I kept getting lost in the area I even noticed. Oh well, I guess that's the problem with 3D versus 2D again. Kinda harder to spot these details. It sucks I'm so negative towards this level. It's a pretty good, well-made level. It's just something about it feels off to me. I'll call this the Sonic Superstars level of the collab. Technically very well-made. It's cute, soft, nicely designed, very original gimmick, very good level, and I'm bored. Blue Mountain Zone, Act 2 by Evlis. I think it's Act 2 because Act 1 was a level in the original Sonic, I'm not sure. Anyway, the big theme here is that this is a level modeled after the old 2.0 version of Sonic Roboblast 2. As I mentioned before, this fan game has been in development in one way or another since 1998, so you can imagine there's a ton of older versions that play considerably different, so it's just a matter of time before someone gets nostalgic for the old ways, and this level is made for them. For as I understand, this level was legitimately made in an era-appropriate version of the level editor and is exactly what could have been in the actual earlier versions, but now ported into the new version. Problem with me is, well, I'm not a big fan of the older Sonic Roboblast 2. I mean, I've been along for the ride since the 2.0 days for sure, but the game at the time always gave me headaches real fast. Most levels just had 4 or 5 textures for the whole level, endlessly repeating the same abstract patterns with often a super dull color scheme, the level's giant open mazes with little happening in them. Outside of some Sonic Adventure remakes or the top-down mod, I don't really return to the old Sonic Roboblast that often. But never mind my boring background, this level. So it starts with a handicap, based on something I don't particularly like. And it's an ice level, which I'm also not a big fan of, with the limiting colors in use for most of the time. Although credit to Evlis, by adding a Christmassy element to this stage, it does add an element of nostalgia I wouldn't otherwise have. Because Christmassy levels does put my brain in the mood for late 90s, early 2000s Christmas demo games. For a 2.0 level, it's pretty alright. Paces well enough. Evlis adds a gameplay gimmick here and there to spice it up. Like the occasional visual touches, like the city in the background in one part. It has a bit of a problem with empty space. That is, at one part, there's this spiral mountain you need to climb. There's one route the player is expected to take, but you can also walk the other direction around the mountain, but there's nothing really there. Bit weird. I would have added a secondary climbing route there or something. Oh well, not like my levels don't suffer from empty space all the time too. It's pretty good for what it is. I helped collab a little bit with this level. I set up the Christmas sprites and I think some other people helped assisting with some small things as well. Sandy Night Zone by The Last Kitchen Gun. What a name. Woo, another level blessed with the magical hands of Otheus, who turned this level into this. So the original level was kind of straightforward. Just that awkward thing where we make the skybox and the background cover up the level geometry, so you get this weird effect. Gotta be careful where you put the background in these levels. But yeah, the original level was fine. Pretty straightforward. Just didn't have much of a hook, a theme, anything. The most notable thing it did was split up into 2 paths. One indoors, one outdoors, and that's it. I mean, granted, that's more than most levels do. It's a harmless, fun little level, but it doesn't really make much of an impression. But then Pfft came along and added his usual complex level geometry to it. Bit of a shame it loses that out-in-the-open desert feel from the original. Now it's all closed up in walls again. The level has more of a gameplay identity now, though, with the cacti playing a more prominent role. You gotta dodge them, they're everywhere, even on ceilings. Some neat touches, like the level still ending if you miss a jump or fall into the hole. But yeah, even with the enhancements, it's a pretty straightforward and short level. It's a level. Yep. High Jump Hijinks Zone by Glaber. I like it when levels have a clear mission or direction going. So a level based entirely around gaining height. Very interesting. Some spectacular slopes here, very impressive. This is a perfect level to test out wacky custom characters, since it's a great series of challenges, all based around gaining height. So if you have a character with unique jumping or other special abilities, here you can put them to the test. But play this level with a character who is not very good at being vertical, and whoo boy. It's gonna be a nightmare though. Whew, I hate this part. I respect a level with clear gameplay focus like this. I'm not particularly good in being creative and climbing, so this level was often frustrating for me. Well, good practice run, I suppose, but yeah, it's a very long level. It can take easily about 20 minutes if you don't know what you're doing, and I sure as heck don't know what I'm doing. The cyberspace level theme. I love it and I hate it. I love it because the primary colors, it can communicate itself really well, and it gives the stage plenty of color dynamics, but I hate it because, well, it's nothing but meaningless colors and shapes. I love cyberspace when the space has an identity. Am I on the internet browsing web pages, or in a computer brain of an appliance, a washing machine AI, a game console, an oven? Giving the cyberspace an actual purpose could make it more interesting, but when it's just this naked digital shapes and colors nothingness, I'm not a big fan. Oh well, for this particular level it doesn't matter, I suppose. It's all about gaining height. So off you go. Or just play as Tails and cheese the entire level. Overpowered little brat. Veggie Keeps by Yisk. Shortest level, but probably one I'm gonna talk a lot about. Pretty sure this level is meant as a test level for the new level editor program, since the original level feels like a series of tests. Scaling up enemies, check. Teleport, check. Fog rooms, check. Slopes, check. Kinda weird level to use as a showcase. Hence why this was prime material for collabs. This level gaining the honor of having both me and Pfft to meddle with it. Of course, the whole level being made out of Green Hill Zone shapes, you knew I'd changed that up. Hey, level's called Veggie Keep, right? Where's the vegetables? Where's the keep? So boom, vegetables, boom, a keep. Wooden keep, since it fits more with nature. I mean, I guess veggie could also just mean vegetation, but hey, I got that covered too with an increasing of bushes. See, I can have a Green Hill Zone level I don't hate, just add some life to it. Roads and boxes for the vegetable distribution, more bushes and vegetable fields, perfect. I added an evil potato too. One of the few times I play a practical joke on the player. I don't know why. I was thinking of Keen Dreams with its potato troopers. I wanted to add them as a joke, because potatoes aren't vegetables, technically, but felt like adding references was maybe not a good idea. And the idea of a guard dog warning sign now saying, "Beware, potato," made me laugh. And well, if you put in a sign like that in a level, you gotta pay it off. Anyway, Pfft and later some others hopped in the level to upgrade it further. He made this cool looking bridge and made the slopes much more smooth. There was one part that kind of frustrated me though. So, this level originally had a secret room where you're under attack by an army of Eggman bosses. However, as far as I could see, there was no way to enter this place, so I figured it's cut content. And to give the potato enemy a bit more gameplay purpose, I made it so that if you defeated it, you get into a secret teleportation room, which would send you to the boss room as an alternative ending. But then later, Sentinel and other collaborated clarified that the boss room was actually made for when people played a level in co-op mode, something I never considered. So when one player finished the level and has to wait for the second player to finish, they get to fight against all these bosses in the meantime. So that purpose was reinstated and the teleportation room was cut off. But then I was like, okay, but now there's this teleportation room that goes nowhere and serves no purpose, so now what? And nobody responded or cared about that. So in frustration, I just took the level back and made this stupid new ring room where you get all these dramatic opening doors and elevators just to reveal a single ring for the player to find. Punctuated with a "yeah" sound effect. But hey, at least the teleporter serves a purpose now. Spleenik the Game Act 1. Spleenik the Hedgehog by Dash the Hog. A level that doubled in size when the collab began. Although it's mostly the original author who worked on it. He's not quite getting the spirit of the collab right, I suppose. So, this level is a parody of Sonic Roller Blast 2 itself, or, well, the older version, to be more precise, since it refers to Robotnik blowing up a city in the intro, and the levels has the more basic look from the old version of the game going. But yeah, it has an intro and everything. It's pretty awesome. They Dash put a lot of thought and effort into it. A parody level, you ask, right? You certainly meddled with this level, didn't you? Yeah, heck, your name's in the credits. Yeah, still, I didn't really do all that much with this level, to be honest. Dash has his own sense of humor that's different than mine, and if I was gonna make jokes for a Sonic Roller Blast 2 parody, I would probably be more focusing on a modern version as it has more set pieces for me to parody. I probably would be a bit of a humorless sourpuss with the jokes here because it's a bit of a different sense of humor than I have. It doesn't really have a punchline or a real joke, it's mostly just kind of random. It's Sonic, but he's wacky. It's Robotnik, but misspelled. Luke, 2 paths. I mean, it's very cute, but it's not actually the jokes like how I see them. I need irony, a twist, a punchline, something. This is just silliness for the sake of silly, which is cute, and definitely the level has a very fun atmosphere. But yeah, if I was to meddle with this level, I'd be a annoying jerk. So I stepped away from it and let Dash do his thing. Although one joke idea he did use from me was adding this Batnik farmer. It's kind of based on the fact that in the vanilla game, there's these fences in the levels with crawlers inside of it. So I thought it was funny if someone's actually farming them or something. Anyway, for the level itself, it's pretty good. It's a bit clunky. I mean, at the start, it immediately ends in a wall and you have to turn 180 degrees in the other direction. It's not something I would ever do. And as a parody of Sonic Roller Blast 2, I don't think the game ever does something like that either. Bit unnatural, but... And of course, there's a bit of an imbalance with the zones. Like Green Flower Zone goes on forever, and then all the other zones are over in 10 seconds. Are you torturing me with more Green Hill Zone, Dash? Darn you. Hey, credit to Silk composing the music. She not only made a theme song for Spleenik, but made zone-appropriate remixes for each segment, making this level have almost 10 songs crammed into one stage. Even though you barely hear most of them for 5 seconds, but yeah. They're there! The final area is very impressive. Feels like it could have been something like a Sonic R race circuit kind of thing. Apparently, if you have some Pizza Tower mod working, there's a special challenge where you can activate a button in this area and run back to the start for an emblem, which is why I play as the pizza guy here. Although I didn't have the actual mod installed, so I can't comment on it. Didn't work for me. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, neat, cute level. Like, my inner parody man wants more explicit jokes or parody set pieces, but hey, what can you do? Dash did draw a lot of original assets for this level, so he put a lot of effort into it. Very commendable. It's cute. Soulside Dungeon Zone by Zexel. Awesome music, rockin'. I think Zexel composed that himself, not sure. So, Zexel shows up at nearly every OLDC and has some kind of running theme going on that his character Prince Zexel is doing something and we have to stop him. I fear I got a bit of a wrong first impression with Zexel levels. The first one I played, a dojo stage, was great, since it has a lot of world building in it. These dojo buildings were filled with fun details like dressing rooms and posters for the fighters, ads. The level ended with you actually participating in the competitions. It's great. Unfortunately, it's the only level that had that level of detail. Most of the others are mostly just lots of abstract shapes and colors. Those levels kind of look like if you made a 3D version of certain primitive 8-bit games, especially with the Sega Master System-esque music playing in most of these levels. It's kind of neat, but often suffering from an aimless level design where I feel like it's just endless enemies and rings and shapeless rooms, the kind of levels that tend to give me a Doom Engine headache real quick. Fortunately, Zexel's a lot better with level design these days, and this new one has a lot better flow and sense of direction and purpose again. I love these bouncing statues. That's a great touch. Reminds me I should make more use of objects being able to interact with springs and stuff. Very nice color use, very interesting visuals. It's a shame Zexel's attempts at creating unique set pieces in previous levels often ended up backfiring. He had interesting bids like a room where you had to follow a strict path to avoid being teleported away, or an underwater tunnel which was very interesting but very frustratingly hard, so a lot of people attacked the level for it. But without them, the levels kind of miss something. So, something to make them stand out from, well, other Zexel levels. Oh well. But yeah, the level is neat. Kinda wish it did more, but yeah, it's cute. Scarlet Canyon Zone, made by Neon SRB2 and NordVPN. Huh. Sponsored by NordVPN, apparently. Well, this level makes for a great testing ground for newer characters. It's a speedrunner's paradise, too. I mean, it's just a big open area where you can run straight from point A to point B. So just play as Metal Sonic and fly straight to the end, I guess. It's a fun playground. It's a straight level. It feels kind of flat and empty, though. Guess this level works great with some kind of timer of some sorts. Visuals are great. Yeah, not much to say. I kind of like the canyon side road aesthetics. Kinda wish some American diners or truck stops were added to give it more of a USA canyon road vibe. Guess I would have added those if I collab at this level, but I didn't, and neither did anyone else, so... Network Terminal, a Sonic Forces level adaptation by Pfft 2, and another level I collaborated with. So the original level was mostly a real grinding level, which Sonic Rollblast 2 can't really do yet, although there is an interesting mod out there allowing you to do it, kinda. So instead, this level plays pretty much as a straightforward boost level, including second half being completely in 2D. Gameplay's pretty good, nice and fast. Got a good pace and rhythm to it. The problem I had with the original, the textures, they were kind of weird. Outside of these gruff, harsh black and white ones. But then the interior textures had these weird looking simplistic wall textures, as if straight from some kind of Flash game. But yeah, hey, Chemical Plant Zone is supposed to be colorful, even in Sonic Forces where the colors are indefinitely muted. It's still kind of there, so I decided to mess around with the textures to help punch this level a little bit up. So I downloaded the real Sonic Forces textures to use those instead, and oh, I realized the weird textures I saw were the real Sonic Forces textures, huh? Up till this point, I was used to textures being what you see is what you get. Sonic Adventure or Sonic Colors textures, they look exactly how you expect them to look. The stuff you see in the game. Forces being more of a modern game with more complex engine, apparently it doesn't have regular textures anymore, but instead uses layers of graphics for its walls now, where you have this super basic looking texture for the general colors, and these harsh black and white layers of the shades, the shadows, the grid of the material, and ice effects as separate files. And I didn't really have to suffer to compile them together so we could use them in Sonic Roboblast, so instead I tried doing it myself, but it looked all washed out and lose its punch. In the end, I just cheated and just grabbed Sonic Generations textures for the most part. Put more emphasis on the interiors, so you get moments like this where you can look out the window where it's snowy and not inside. Contrast! Which wasn't much in the original. But yeah, I gotta admit in the end, the level doesn't really look like the actual network terminal. I mean, Pigs already didn't bother making it look like we were in the open ocean, as in the original. We didn't bother adding a red hue in the interior. And I was too much in love with the fun little cargo containers, which are from the spaceport level and not in network terminal. I still wanted to put those in as decoration. Failures are around. How dare we? But oh well, hey, cargo containers, look at them. They're so cool. To make up for it, I did add more computer stuff in the level, that even more than the original even had. Hey, it's supposed to be a network terminal, right? Of course, if you make a computer room, gotta put Vector in there. Wasn't sure if Pigs liked it if I put a meme in there, but apparently he did, and he even added the mission marker graphic on top of Vector. Bit too for wall breaking for me, but whatever, it's his level. The Cyber Grind by Boogity Bug. Great concept. Sonic's made for arcade action, and this is as arcade as it gets. Based on a game called Ultra Kill that I never played myself, but yeah, arena shooter. Well, I love the concept of being in an arena fighting enemies in waves and all that. I'm afraid it doesn't really work well with Roboblast. It's very cramped, and with most characters you'll be constantly in fear of flying off the stage to your death rather than be concerned about the actual enemy challenge. Guess it's a level Knuckles can shine in. But yeah, neat idea, well programmed, looks very complex. Boss wave is a little overwhelming. I believe other people like Last Kitchen Gun and Vic Susan helped fix this level up a bit and made it wider. Although even now I feel it's too small for its own good. Oh well. Pick a good character for this is what I'll say. Scrap Brain Zone from Silk. My brain kept mixing up Scrap Brain and the factory level since they have so much in common. Neat, straightforward gameplay with graphics that are a tad too primitive for my tastes. Although here it's really abstract sometimes in its approach. I mean, I appreciate the little details like having a waste disposal room or a casino room. Adds a little life. But I would have preferred it if it was a little more tasteful with the decorations and not plaster the same decoration to endlessly loop on one wall. I love how this level has a nice flair for the dramatic and some real cool transitions. Also a few interesting level set pieces I've never seen before, really nice. That part with a pinball-esque setup where the springs keep bouncing you up on the sloped floor was very clever. I have to remember this if I ever make a casino or pinball stage myself. And yeah, it even used Game Gear music in this stage. I love that track. I think Sync remixed all the music in the stage herself and even helped with the music of many other levels in this OLDC, although I don't know which, sorry. It's a shame the texturing is a big basic, but it does the trick, I suppose. Yeah, I can't say much. Fun, straightforward level. Wish I could have stepped in to make it more resemble the actual Scrap Brain Zone, a little more than a more abstract Eggman Circus it is now, but oh well. Apparently part of a level pack Silk is working on, involving all kinds of final zones. Are we there yet? No. Boy, there's too many levels. Next! Reginemitis 33 by Inferner. Man, it's an incredible atmosphere. You put a real care in the visuals here. Pretty epic Mars base. Love it when the skybox is so low angled, it really makes it look epic in scope. Fun gimmicks too, I love the reverse gravity parts. Wish there was more of it. Kinda reminds me of Mega Man 5. Yeah, great stuff. Visually the best stage of these OLDC. And pretty solid level design to go along with it. As a level maker, the password gimmick is very interesting because I have no idea how that was pulled off. Ooh, and you even bravely tried to make a pathway specifically for Knuckles. Aw, poor soul. Knuckles and Tails are near impossible to get a decent level design for. Yet again, you get a giant open space where Knuckles will either just float straight to the exit or get frustrated if he doesn't know where to go. I think Knuckles would work better in more confined spaces. You can create more explicit challenges for him. Anyway, yeah, this level. Wish I could talk more about it, but I don't have many more thoughts. Flow of the level feels a little bit off, but not sure why I feel that way. Can't put my finger on it. Confined Ravine by Pfft, who's been making all these Rayman 2 inspired levels for quite a while. Hey, and at long last, we finally have the tutorial level of all the Rayman 2 levels we already had. Wow, I'm really impressed by the tree branches. How the mapper could make them all thick and crooked. Great imitation of how they looked in Rayman 2's wacky art style. Must be a pain to achieve in a more rigid Sonic Roboblast 2 engine. Of course, this level was made in the new engine, hence why it was easier than before, but still probably a bother. Too bad as a player of the level, I don't really enjoy these branches as much. They're a pain to platform on since their sloped edges really throw Sonic's jump direction off. But problem I really have with the level, it doesn't really feel Rayman 2-ish for me. To me, Rayman 2 has very explicit gameplay focused rooms where you're always in a contained area with a very explicit challenge going on. While in the Roboblast 2 levels, it's a lot of wide open space without much happening. Sadly, the first Rayman 2 stage of Pfft I played, the Marsh, did a much better job at emulating Rayman, with the swamp areas having more explicit gameplay action, with staying above the deadly swamp water, dodging moving mazes, and there being plenty of those pirate headquarter buildings to go into, which I always enjoyed in Rayman 2, these little pirate academy buildings or whatever silliness. But I remember the Marsh level getting a lot of harsh criticism, that the outdoor areas were too hard and the interiors too crammed, so I guess that's why the new stages are much more laid back. Kinda ironic that these Rayman stages are the only ones that do the modern Sonic level grading at the end, giving you a score for how fast you were, items you collected, etc. Rank A! And it's ironic because these levels always feel so laid back and relaxed now. They don't really put me in the mood of yeah, I gotta perform for a good score, arcade mood. Hope the future levels will have more of a gameplay hook again. Either way, this is another level I helped collab with. I was a little bonded with the textures. I think I gotta explain the textures here a bit. A problem with translating other games to the Roboblast engine is that the camera in Roboblast is way zoomed out, and you have a much bigger overview of the stage, way bigger than in regular games. So with Rayman 2, most of these textures are designed to fill the screen. You're close up and you only see it looped once or twice. But put it in Sonic Roboblast 2 and you get stuff like this, where the same rock structure is seen hundreds of times, and it looks really bad. So either you have to make the textures way bigger, which can cause trouble with performers and make them look unpleasantly stretched out, or you gotta be more clever in how to create walls, which is why I stepped in, adding more alcoves, bushes, and other visual elements that break the texture loop a bit more. Oh man, I wish Rayman 2 had decent bush textures though. Bushes are my primary visual weapon in Force levels, but Rayman 2 never uses any, so I have to use the dark swamp wall textures instead. They look a touch too dark to work as regular bushes. Tried to light them up a bit by adding more lighter plants on top of the original texture, but it still looks too dark. Oh well. Oh, and I couldn't resist adding more Rayman characters in the levels too. I mean, if this is supposed to be the representation of the tutorial level, gotta have the hopping glowbox children and the teensies fighting over the crown, right? And even added Lee, even though she's supposed to be kidnapped at this point in the game. Oops. Oh well. I guess the level's inspired by the tutorial stage, not literally it. I mean, there's also underwater sections that weren't in the original. Speaking of which, the fish! I love him. Look at him, he has such a goofy smile. I worry it's very hard to see in the game itself. Oh well. Twilight Hill Zone by Sean07 and Corey. Incredible visuals, a real treat. Very detailed. Great use of waterfalls and creeks, even making them flow very well and everything. Man, those spiked walls looked like they were a pain to set up as well. The level flows really well, although I got lost a couple times. It wants the player to loop around a lot, and while the level's very detailed, it's kind of hard to see where it wants me to go a lot of the time. Wasn't a big fan of how dark the last section is either, or how color mapping washes out any color contrast and makes everything look kind of samey. One of the main reasons I prefer older 3D games over modern ones sometimes, I like having more varied color palettes rather than everything being washed out for the sake of realistic atmosphere. Not helping the amount of detail causes slow down my computer too. Oh well. I wish I had more to say about the level.
Level was updated while I was editing this video, so maybe it's better now.
Alcove areas, but not much to say. Final Zone. Silk Duke Double Duty. For all the smartasses wanting to correct me that technically Scrap Brain Zone isn't the final zone of Sonic 1, surprise, the actual final zone is included as well by the same author, called, well, the final zone. Was a fun concept to recreate the Sonic 1 final boss. I like that, it got a chuckle out of me. Although that concept quickly disappeared afterwards. Bit messy stage afterwards. And then Princess Plushima designed a brand new boss for this stage, which is awesome. I always like new bosses. And it's the only boss in this entire OLDC, but hey, it's the final stage, so fitting place for one. It isn't very Sonic 1-ish, feels more like a Sonic CD boss. But hey, still awesome concept, dodging all these bullets on the conveyor belt. Really hard though. But hey, it's the final zone, and the deep is hidden away in the hub, so it's fitting, I suppose. Fun little level, nice series of small challenges. Yeah, pretty difficult boss. But hey, a Gad can attack from above, so that's kinda cheating. Which finally leaves me with the final stage of this collab to talk about. My stage, Robotropolis Tunnels. Yeah, this level has a weird evolution. From wasn't meant to exist to biggest level for Sol Sestancia 2 so far. Story-wise, I needed a section where Sonic leaves Eggman City, so it would either just be a quick corridor at the end of a previous level or just a short filler stage. Then Buggy the Bug, a guy who helped me make these awesome chairs in previous levels, wanted me to make a stage demonstrating his Pizza Tower wartime gimmick. A new level gimmick he created. So alright, I agreed since I owed him, but I wanted to work on Sol Sestancia 2 rather than make another standalone stage, and this section in the story was the only place where it made sense. So what would have been a short and Sonic left Robotropolis footnote turned into one of the most intense levels I made so far. Being entirely focused around a gameplay gimmick, a timer constantly ticking down, the player requiring to hit monitors for extra time. I focused more on pure gameplay rather than my usual goofiness. I wanted to do these small room specific challenges I saw a lot in PlayStation 1 era 3D platformers like Croc. So I have a lot of specific platform challenge areas with these monitors as the hook, focus the player on. I was a bit worried this level wouldn't make a good OLDC entry because, you know, people expect specific things from me, but I promised Buggy. At least it'd be an excuse to get more specific feedback on my platforming level design. Hardcore level design isn't really my strong suit, so this level was just supposed to be a 3-minute tunnel section and that's it. But then Buggy added the option for me to stop the timer during the level as well, and wanted to demonstrate it. And I was worried people would be disappointed if Robotropolis itself was never really seen outside of the tunnels. So in the end I added the outside street sections later, containing the more classical wacky Roger style gameplay as well, working as a bit of a cathartic, laid-back section after the very stressful tunnel sequence. But now, the sense of danger from the escape is all wonky. The tunnel section is super intense, then the outside area is all breezy and easy. It's a bit of an anticlimactic finisher for what's supposed to be a dramatic escape. And thus I added this fake, not really boss fight set-piece ending as well. A giant robot suddenly popping up, giving you a suitable dramatic ending. At first the plan was that you had to activate 3 missiles and shoot at him, but to make it more of an actual boss fight, but this level is already way too long and unstable as it is, so now it just goes down in one hit. It's clear I crammed way too much stuff in one level. Sonic Roboblast 2 was not happy with this one, the engine. Some random sections in the tunnel already caused Sonic Roboblast 2 to helplessly crash for no reason, hence why there's a lot of weird teleporters in the levels to kind of dodge the instantly crash sections. I also wanted to experiment a little bit more with the graphics, doing more in-texture lightning, more atmospheric sections. I was looking at a lot of Sonic's ATM footage to study how Robotropolis looked, and I very often had these atmospheric shots of lightning coming in from different rooms, so I tried to recreate that a bit. Works with small rooms, but it looks horrible in giant rooms, which is why I only had one big room in the tunnel. I regretted it immediately, so the rest of the levels are very cramped. Hey, it's a sewer level after all. So while all the interiors and back alleys are very inspired by CTM Robotropolis, the main streets themselves are more based on a Sonic Underground rendition of Robotropolis, where it's less of an abandoned factory wasteland and more of an actual city where people live. Since this level is supposed to take place on the Sol Sestancia Island, an upbeat place, so even though this is more of a sober Robotnik industrial area, I did want to give it a slightly lighter, livable approach to it to make it fit the rest of the island to a degree. So the lighter underground Sonic Robotropolis it is. So, did people collab with my level? Surprisingly, yeah, a little. Silk helped me add a little bit of a radio effect on Robotnik and Nicole's voice lines. And Avalis wanted to make a bonus section for me where the player would be chased by a subway train decorated by Robotnik dancing animation. I was planning on making that a secret ending for the hidden second route out of the tunnels. Sadly, the level was way too unstable and we couldn't really handle a new section, so it had to be cut out again. Oh well. I will make it a separate bonus level in Sol Sestancia 2 though, So yeah, there it is. All 25 levels discussed. Minus the multiplayer levels, but give me a break. So, while I walk around aimlessly a bit, I want to talk about a few details behind the scenes. So, for some reason, the fact that this OLDC was going to be a collab was kept hidden from us until everyone already sent in their levels. To surprise us, I guess. Which is fun, but I gotta be honest, I'm not sure if that was a good idea. I mean, collab levels are more fun when some gaps are left open deliberately for others to hop in and change, and a lot of the levels already look so complete that it doesn't really encourage anyone to jump in and change things around. I mean, I feel kind of like a bull in a china shop by the idea of jumping into some of these levels, you know? And then, of course, there's the levels that are perfect for collaboration. The more basic looking stages like the original Veggie Keeps, Hilltop Fortress, and Sandy Night, which were prime candidates for big-headed idiots like me to jump in and punch up, and we did. I mean, look at the after and before effects. But I have to admit, I kind of feel guilty about it because, well, it was someone else's level. Like Yisk, TLKJ, Mammoth Mogul fan. I mean, let's face it, if this was still a competition, their levels probably would rank very low, but any comments they get are still their comments. Any feedback, negative or positive, is what they earned for themselves. But now an asshole like me inserts a bunch of attention-grabbing nonsense in it, and suddenly all attention is to the junk I created, as if I don't get enough attention of my own level already. I can't imagine this must suck for the original creators. Of course, I talked to them and asked permission. It's just that most of them aren't particularly talkative, so I don't know if, yeah, okay is a awesome, do whatever you want, or a please don't hurt me, leave me alone. Okay. Hence why I at least refrained from changing up the gameplay or adding too many jokes or wacky things for the most part. Now granted, we were all asked ahead of time if we gave permission for our levels to be edited or not, so I suppose people could just say no and save their levels from meddling. But let's face it, most of us aren't really champions of social interaction. A lot of us are nerds, socially awkward, shy, introvert. I tried to start open conversations a lot on Discord, making open lists of my ideas in the hopes of starting an open conversation, but man, there was almost no interaction with that at all. It didn't go the way I hoped. But whatever. The thing is, I find this collaboration concept amazing, for one main reason. Most people are specialized in only one or two things, and they are amazing at those one or two things, but not so much the rest. Some can make awesome badniks, but don't really have the sensibility in creating a level around them. Some have an amazing sense of flow and rhythm, but kind of forget to give the level a purpose, a challenge, a face. Some of us have great level design ideas but aren't very good at decorating, and so on and so on. Most of us are specialized in specific areas but not in levels as a whole. So that's where this collab should shine, right? Create a dream team of specialists, one for creating custom enemies and gimmicks, one for level design, one for decoration, one for technical bells and whistles, etc. Heck, for the next OLDC, what about this? That in order to join the collab project, you don't even need to send in your own level. You can just volunteer yourself purely as assistants to other levels. Someone who could just make awesome custom music just wants to be part of the team just to insert their music and not really have their own level or something. Heck, maybe I prefer this to help out existing levels rather than toss another Sol Sestancia 2 level in and spoil my whole level pack. Who knows? Or send in levels deliberately with a gap. Like, hey, I love level designing, but I have no ideas for the decorating and theming. Let someone else do that. Hey, I got a cool theme for a level, but I have no idea what kind of level design or gimmick should flow from that. Keep it open and have someone else jump in. Might lead to more high quality levels. Or for the next OLDC to have 58 levels sent in and all half finished with only 2 or 3 people to finish them all. I guess it could backfire. Now, I ain't in charge and I ain't good at organizing either, so it's not like I got a big plan on making this happen. Heck, I'm worried I'm already stepping on other people's toes as it is, so I hope the organizers try and get more potential of this project themselves. I mean, you got technical people and you got creative people, and this round felt a little too technical for me. As if this collab was only started to make sure levels don't have minor technical issues rather than really encourage people to be creative and nuts with it. In fact, I got a very strong impression that a lot of the organizers kind of hated adding humor to levels, which put me in a very weird position. I mean, they never said anything to me personally, but I don't know. Maybe I have YouTube celebrity privileges or something, I don't know. So yeah, I'm curious how this will go next time when people know what to expect out of this collab, rather than being surprised by the nature of this project. We'll see. Looking forward to where this goes. Yep. But yeah, so for those who want to play, go ahead. It's on the Sonic Roboblast site now. Do give me your feedback on the Robotropolis Tunnels levels. Apparently I made them way harder than I intended to. Yeah, that's the problem with being the creator of the level. It's always more natural for you. Guess I'll make it easier for Sol Sestancia 2's release, with monitors giving more time and a Toxic not being insta-kill or something, but that's for later. It is what it is for the OLDC. Anyway, yeah, I'm still working on animations and other stuff, so it's taking forever, so I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.